Week 5 fantasy football running back rankings. Bye weeks are upon us. The Atlanta Falcons mean Bijan Robinson's out of your lineup. Chicago Bears, DeAndre Swift is gone. Green Bay Packers, Josh Jacobs, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, somewhere between Kenny Gainwell, Jalen Warren, out of your lineups. So today, we set the rankings, set your roster, and Hayden, there's some massive movement here on a Wednesday, including some backup to backup running backs that might get some more run than expected.
Yeah, it was a crazy week on the waiver wire because we got super late news. So always pay attention to our Twitter feeds where we continuously update everything. So yeah, really excited to get into, fight the Sean Tucker bros and talk up Michael Carter, I guess.
Certainly the Tampa Bay backfield and especially the Cardinals backfield will not be among the top 12 names that we talk about, but we will definitely try to decipher as best as we can the murky waters of backup to backup running backs. Okay. At the top, this one's quite easy. This is Jonathan Taylor as your running back one this week against the Las Vegas Raiders. Just a sensational player. And if last week was the floor, we're in for a spectacular season here for JT.
The Indianapolis Colts are third in projected points this week. Third. Wow. I mean, imagine how much you would have made if that was your projection going into the season. So yeah, he doesn't come off the field. He's very good. And they're third in projected points against the Raiders at home. Like there's no other notes really.
The other part of this is, and we brought this up before, he's actually getting involved in the receiving game, like through a season so far. Well, I should say since 2021, he hasn't topped 153 receiving yards. He's already at 113 this year. That's obviously not going to be necessary in this game where there are heavy home favorites, but just thinking about that in the future, this is making him much more, or much less, I should say, matchup dependent. Mm-hmm. And that's just like a spectacular fantasy asset moving forward. Also, this is Jahmyr Gibbs as your running back two. This is at the Cincinnati Bengals. Are we talking about 200 rushing yards here or what?
Yeah, this one's going to get out of control. So Lions are first in projected points, almost at 30, like you call it on Stats versus Film. They're playing the Bengals, who've allowed the second most fantasy points to running backs this year. I thought, watching that game, that the Bengals defense was borderline giving up. And that was in Denver on Monday Night Football. So now we got a short rest for this one. I think this one's going to get lucky or get just completely lopsided. So obviously Jahmyr Gibbs being ranked here is not surprising, but wait till you guys see my David Montgomery ranking in a minute.
CMC, Christian McCaffrey. Speaking of short weeks, he's Thursday Night Football at the Los Angeles Rams. We have joked, and it's actually less of a joke when you look at the underlying metrics, that he's a wide receiver one and a running back two. Yep. It makes sense. 24% of the 49ers yardage this year has been gained via the ground. That is the lowest rate in the NFL, but only Puka Nacua among all players has more targets than Christian McCaffrey. And only two players, Puka Nacua and Jake Ferguson, have more receptions than Christian McCaffrey so far this season.
That was a Jake Ferguson stat out of nowhere. I was not expecting that one. This is like straight up too big to fail. I have no idea if it's going to be Brock Purdy, Juwan, Ricky Pearsall. All I know is that George Kittle is still out. No Brandon Ayuk. This is I would say, defensive line versus offensive line mismatch against the Rams. So that's the only reason why he's not my running back one. Like if you look at just the usage charts that I post, he's a complete outlier in terms of the usage. He gets crazy amount of receiving work, like you mentioned, especially in the 2-minute drill. And if Brock Purdy or Mac Jones are limited and they don't have the right wide receivers, they're just going to throw the ball to Christian McCaffrey the entire game.
Rams defense has done a fantastic job against great running backs so far this year. I just talked about JT's floor. They stopped into that last week. They've also done a great job against Saquon Barkley the week prior to that. And so if Christian McCaffrey, who right now is a almost low success rate and low explosive rate runner, then he'll have to get it done in the passing game. But again, he's getting a boatload of targets.
He'll get it.
Devon Achane's going to get there too in week 4. This is at the Carolina Panthers. His numbers in terms of underlying stuff with explosives and success rate and all that type are actually higher by about 4% than they were last year. And this is a Panthers defense that, despite the additions, has been really bad at stopping the run and rushing the passer so far this season.
Yeah, they've been pathetic. The Dolphins are 11th in projected points at 23, which is higher than it has been for them the last months. Yeah, it really does feel like too low. He's the RB8 and RB10 usage. And then in the last 3 games, that's 15.8 expected half PPR points. He's going to catch a bunch of passes without Tyreek Hill. And they just have no speed at linebacker. And yeah, it's been a complete joke. So right now, pick 'em lobby wise, 105 total yards for Devon Achane, which is basically the exact same as Jonathan Taylor. And I think the Taylor one is a little bit low, if I'm being honest. But yeah, these guys are as elite as they get. These guys are just going to be total ballers.
Underdog this week re-released ladders onto the platform. Devon Achane might be the ladders guy of the week. I'm not advocating for anyone to waste your time watching the Panthers defense against the New England Patriots, and they might get a couple of their starting edge rushers back in this game. But what the Patriots did was use misdirection to create chunk gains, and no team is better at misdirection in the running game than the Miami Dolphins. In fact, the guy who started edge rusher in DJ Johnson got flat out cut as a 3rd round pick 2 days after that, after playing 60% of snaps, because he was allowing 30-yard gains to his side every single time. So who knows if a starter or a backup to that is going to be able to prevent this. I just think that Mike McDaniel is going to really be scheming stuff up this week against this bad Panthers defense.
When's the last time we've seen like a 50-yard carry from Devon Achane or a reception? It's been a little bit this week.
67.5 right now is his higher or lower in the pick'em lobby, with just 14.5 first quarter rushing yards, 30.5 first half rushing yards. That might be the one to take at 30.5. Ladders. Again, check it out over on Underdog. Next, James Cook has been incredible this season, and he has locked into your top 5 running backs against the New England Patriots.
I'm not going to say this is an easy matchup for him. The Patriots have been very good at stopping the run the entire season, but James Cook has just been so lethal, and the Patriots have not faced the Buffalo Bills in their first 4 games, and their run blocking has been phenomenal. James Cook looks great, and Bills are second in projected points, and then just James Cook's usage, even last year when he was a full breakout, this year it's even better than last year. He's had almost 15 expected half PPR points in all 4 of his games, which is a ton. There's been different types of game script too. So he's just going to be a stud the entire year. I don't see what's going to change here.
Saquon Barkley is your running back 6 against the Denver Broncos. We discussed this in depth in stats versus film, but his yards before contact this season have been way down. It's at 0.95 rushing yards before contact this year. Last season, that was 2.64. And then the Eagles offense has actually been way more predictable this season. They're running the football 64% of the time on first downs. And on those first down runs, Saquon is actually 40th in the league in terms of yards per carry at 2.6. So at some point, this is going to fix itself. I know everyone thinks, and rightfully so, that this Broncos defense is awesome, but this Broncos defense has allowed some rushing yards. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is the week that Saquon gets it going for more than a 16-yard carry.
Yeah, I really hope so. He's obviously a buy low if people are just copy pasting his first month of the season. So he's the RB14 and RB4 usage. I think rest of the season he's a top 5 running back, but he's not going to be near where he was when he was the offensive rookie or offensive player of the year, whatever he was. So the Eagles are only projected for the 9th most points, at 24. And the Broncos, like you said, their pass defense is better than their run defense, but it's still a really tough matchup in general. And I feel like the Eagles are they're a little bit more conservative this year than they were the years before. And the offensive line just straight up is not good because of injury. Dickerson and Lane Johnson are not quite the same caliber. The right guard spot hasn't been as good. Obviously, Jason Kelsey, we like their new center, but versus the prime Kelsey years, obviously it's just kind of one tier down than what it typically is.
Some people say conservative, other people say kind of boring at times. So next, Omarion Hampton, running back 7, Washington Commanders. A really fun week. I think the Commanders are at home only 2.5-point favorites. We know Jaden Daniels is back for this one as well. Your expectations here for Omarion Hampton, and if Bobby Wagner is going to be able to reach him on the edge and keep up with his pace.
I was watching more film. I forget who it was. And I was watching a tight end just cook Bobby Wagner. I see Bobby Wagner every single week just chasing guys, and he's not catching up to them. So that will be the case if Omarion Hampton lines up against him in this one. The offensive line makes me nervous, but I also just don't think the Commanders' defense is all that good, and I think that they look really slow. So betting markets agree with us. Chargers are 5th in projected points at home here. And then over the last 2 weeks without Najee Harris, he's been the running back 1 overall on running back 9 usage. So usage is obviously way up. He doesn't really come off the field all that much. So yeah, I'm nervous about the offensive line, but I think maybe in a different matchup.
It's one of those where a certain threshold of opponent can really maximize on your deficiencies along the offensive line. And I'm just not sure if the Commanders' defensive line is up to that caliber. It speaks, to what Justin Herbert is and Omarion Hampton and everyone else, that they are still without 2 tackles that are first-round investments, still projected for 25.5 points.
The other thing watching Hampton's film is Justin Herbert, when he gets to the check down to Omarion Hampton, it's like wide ass open because Herbert's like scanning the field and actually throwing to the check down when he knows that like the zone coverage has like left that opening. So he has like more yards after the catch ability because Justin Herbert is so smart.
And as we talked about, Hampton had like 29 and 39 receptions in college. He's very comfortable in that aspect of the game. Javonte Williams is your running back 8. I was stunned. Consensus rankings this week, running back 12. What else does Javonte have to do? And it's not like this Jets defense is playing at a high level. In fact, they're playing at a bad level right now.
Yes. Terrible level. The Jets linebacker Quincy Williams is not out there. We'll see about their edge rusher as well. They just haven't tackled well. I just don't think they have a great scheme right now. Aaron Glenn's just yelling at everybody. It's really bad in New York. And the Cowboys are 6th in projected points. And Javonte doesn't come off the field. And Miles Sanders has an ankle injury. And they don't trust Jaden Blue. Otherwise, he would have been, active, like straight up active.
Right.
So last week was actually a season high in usage, 20.4 expected half PPR points. I know there's some overtime, but I think it's just like as the season progresses, it becomes more and more clear how much they trust Javonte, who's done nothing wrong. So it makes me nervous that they don't have the center and right guard, but they put it up against the Packers, and the Jets are nowhere near the Packers.
He's already matched a career high with 4 rushing scores in a season. It is Boostober now, by the way. Yeah, he's only had 4 in the past.
Oh my God.
October equals Boostober on Underdog. I included Javonte Williams in my Boostober starter pack, higher 64.5 rushing yards. That goes along with Jonathan Taylor's higher 87.5 rushing yards. Then we'll talk about Jordan Mason, a rare lower for me at 66.5 rushing yards. Boostober, in these next few days, get in on the action. They are just giving away unlimited free 30% boosts on everything. So go on the app. It's in the description down below. Use promo code The Show and get on that Boostober streak. Cam Skattebo, running back 13 in consensus rankings, running back 9 for you at the New Orleans Saints, which I believe the Giants are underdogs in this game. They are by 2 points right now.
I don't know about all that. I'm surprised that they're 5th fewest in points. I guess they're on the road. Jackson Dart didn't do a whole lot passing the ball, but even with a low team total, it's only because they get the ball to Cam Skattebo and Jackson Dart with his legs the entire game. So Skattebo's going to get it done as a receiver. He doesn't really come off the field. Tyrone Tracy obviously out. And then last week, season high 22.4 expected half PPR points. He's the goal line back. I think he looks good on tape. Jackson Dart and Cam seem like best friends. Same thing with Dayball. He's like, I'm not, it matters. Like these guys are in absolute love with each other. It's wild.
Do you think I'm off base thinking that Dayball knows he is mic'd up and on camera and like the owner is going to be watching these things where he is totally hitching his wagon to Jackson Dart and making it known how attached they are at the hip. And this is my guy. He is no one else's guy. He is my guy. So no matter what we do the rest of the season, I'm keeping my job because this is my guy.
Yeah. That clip, I felt bad. Obviously he scored that touchdown. He was immediately like, this is our effing guy. And like, I'm sure Russell Wilson was like, damn, man, like it's been one drive. Jesus.
Yeah,
it's
literally
wild.
Was one drive.
It was one drive. He's like, this is the guy. Oh, it's great stuff. I love it. It's been obviously terrible for New York for a while. So have some fun. I will say just for their GM, last year's draft class was pretty damn good. And then this year's draft class looks pretty damn good. Like don't shoot the messenger, but they've had some problems in free agency, but through the draft, they've added a lot of talent the last 2 classes.
I get what the books are looking at here though. Again, we talk about every week. I know they're 0-4, but the Saints are frisky. Their defense is still playing at a pretty high level and doing quite a number on some of these other teams for the vast majority of games. And then the Giants, last week they had 2 drives gifted to them at the 3-yard line. Yeah. So I don't expect that to happen once again. I also believe with Skattebo, some of the receiving work that we saw earlier in the season likely goes away with how much Jackson Dart is scrambling, because, that element just gets taken away, and he's already showing great in pass protection too. Just a thought. Kyren Williams is your running back 10. This is against the San Francisco 49ers. Through 4 weeks, he has 1 week as a top 12 scoring running back. You're anticipating the second here.
I guess so. I think he's a fantasy RB1 in rankings. The Rams are 4th in projected points at home on a short week. The 49ers don't have Nick Bosa still. They're 6-point home favorites. So I think there is enough room for 2 running backs, but there needs to be, because Blake Corum is like very much getting in there. He played a lot even in the first half. So this is like no longer a garbage time thing. Like, this is like a real 65-35 split. So it was a season low for Kyren Williams in expected points last week, season high for Blake Corum at the same exact time. So this is a committee approach. I just think when they're projected for 26, that both of these guys still project really well.
100%. And, the week that Kyren got there was he had a rushing score on top of it. And you mentioned 65-35. Last week it was, 59-41.
Yeah.
And that's what we anticipated heading into this season. But that is notable that it has stayed that way, and they're being consistent in that way. It's just different when the team total is this high. That is for sure. Breece Hall is your running back 11. So through 4 weeks, Braylon Allen had out-touched Breece Hall 4-1 inside of the 10-yard line. Breece Hall, at the very least, is going to, Kirby slurp all those things. That was a weird phrase, Josh.
What the hell does that even mean? Okay, I got you. Just don't say that again.
Absorb? I mean, I was looking for a word, and then for some reason, Kirby just possessing someone, and when he...
The comments are going to kill you
or
for that one.
All these other things. Wow. I'm not going to recover from that one. Weaves behind the scenes, I know, is howling at this moment. Anyways, he should get at least a short yardage stuff from Braylon Allen. I do wonder if he still loses the passing down stuff to Isaiah Davis. Your turn.
Yeah. Last week, 13.7 expected half PPR points. I don't know who's slurping who from what, but the Jets are projected for a healthy amount, 22.5 points against the Cowboys. That's probably gonna be the highest team total for the Jets the entire year. And the Cowboys, they stink. So I think Breece can get all the goal line touches, and I think as long as he looks a little bit healthier than he did last week, he should make the most out of it. So this is like a really good spot for Breece Hall. Probably the best one of his entire season.
There's no scientific term for what Kirby does. Just wanted to put that one out there. Okay. Next, Ashton Jeanty, your running back 12 against the Indianapolis Colts. We know he's coming off his easily best performance. I mean, multiple touchdowns, multiple long runs.
Yeah.
The issue with that one is he was still hit at or behind the line of scrimmage on 13 of his 21 carries. And now they're without Kolton Miller for at least this game, and maybe 3 or 4 or 5 more beyond that. So while the stat looks great, he only went from negative 0.1 yards per contact to 0.7. And that could easily flip back here against an Indianapolis Colts defense.
You mentioned on Stats versus Film that a lot of Jeanty's big plays were to the left. I went back and watched all of Jeanty's big runs, and it's like not an exaggeration. Almost every single one of them was on the backs of Kolton Miller, who was like making huge blocks in every which direction. I think it's a pretty substantial loss. The kind of thing that's keeping me like a little bit more optimistic with Jeanty is he at least ran a route in 13 of 23 dropbacks. He scored on both of his targets. That's like not sustainable, but I'm with you that it's going to be still extremely boom bust, and they do not have the interior guys to block DeForest Buckner. And then the Colts have they've drafted a bunch of first round edge rushers on top of this. And man, it's probably the worst offensive line in the NFL without Kolton Miller.
It sucks. Ashton Jeanty got below average blocking last week. And look what he did.
Yeah.
And bottom 3 blocking just negates any talent that you have.
Yeah.
If next season we get average blocking, that's going to be incredible. And maybe that improves, but Kolton Miller was, as you just put, easily their best offensive lineman. We've all sent money to a friend or a group after dinner, bowling, maybe a birthday party, an event that you forgot to bring a gift to. And it can be difficult with other ones, but not Cash App. With Cash App, you can spend, save, and live your life knowing that your money is right where you left it with advanced built-in security protections that you count on and help when you need it. Spend with peace of mind today and order a Cash App card in the app or at cash.app/card. For a limited time only, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code to earn additional cash for real. Just download Cash App, use our exclusive referral code SECURE10 in your profile, send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That is Cash App. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners, prepaid debit card issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC, instant discounts provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Okay. Quinshon Judkins is your running back 13. This is against the Minnesota Vikings defense. Hayden, this is the Sunday morning game at 9:30 Eastern. The game total is 35.5 points right now. That was nearly what the Bills were projected for last week. And now it's in two teams to equal 35.5 points in this game.
Yeah. Quinshon Judkins is still probably going to get home though. Like, it's a terrible situation, but the last two games, and the two only games he's had where like he's actually practicing, 15.5 and 17.5 expected points. That would be like RB6 overall usage. So I'm discounting that because, like it's a disaster situation, but he's very clearly a good football player. I think that there's a chance Dylan Gabriel is just better than Joe Flacco, like for this offense, especially for like fantasy purposes. He's probably going to throw a couple extra picks and just like get coverages wrong. But I think that he might not take as many sacks and he might pick up a couple more first downs throughout the game. So I'm like a pretty big fan of what the Browns have got going here with just like looking at the roster before the season versus what they have now. Like you can start seeing how this team could be the 25th best offense in the NFL instead of like they easily could have been the worst offense in the NFL this year. So I'm very curious to see what Dylan Gabriel's got here. All that said, against the Vikings, who it's just miserable against the run for the last couple seasons. I know it's been a little bit better this year, but
it's been better this year.
Yeah, but still, like it's a day two rookie against Brian Flores in another country.
So a couple notes on that. When big changes like this at the quarterback position happen, in my head, there's a few different paths that they could potentially go down. The first one is, okay, with Joe Flacco, when they were losing by double-digit points, they were just like, okay, we're not going to come back and win this game. Let's just run our normal offense with two tight ends, motion a wide receiver into a third tight end basically, and run the football like normal. Like last week, Quinshon Judkins had 12 of his 21 runs in the second half when the Browns were down anywhere from 10 to 17 points.
Yeah.
Which most offenses don't do when they're down by 10 to 17 points.
Yep.
Or, and what I'm saying is Dylan Gabriel might then just be asked to, hey, spread it out and pass the football like normal teams, which would make sense. Or it's, okay, we're actually going to protect him and still do the same exact thing because that's what our offense is. It's 12 personnel and we run the football. And that's great news for Quinshon Judkins. But the other part of that is, like you're saying, even if I don't think Dylan Gabriel is the future quarterback beyond this season for the Browns, they could easily just be better off with him. Point and shoot, Kevin Stefanski, good coach, get the football out, all those types of things. And if they're better and they score more points, then that's more advantageous for someone who is owning the backfield, like Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah, I think people have like overthought the Dylan Gabriel stuff. I think the Browns just straight up think he's much better than Shedeur Sanders and that he is the future for the entire rest of the season. And then hopefully he can be, at least compete for the starting job next year, depending on where they finish. Like this defense is still so good. And if Dylan Gabriel's like has any chance, even if he's like a really, really like he's just the 30th quarterback in the NFL, like if that with, this defense, I don't think that they would have the first overall pick this year. There's worse football teams than the Browns right now.
And the other part is they're facing Carson Wentz and they might get, short fields inside the 10, inside the 20, strip sacks, interceptions, those types of things. For years, we have talked about this Brian Flores defense being difficult to run on. They have been hit or miss. I think it's fair to say they were great against the likes of DeAndre Swift and Chase Brown, bad offensive lines, which you could argue that the Browns are a bad offensive line.
Yes.
And then they were terrible against the Atlanta Falcons and the Pittsburgh Steelers and Kenny Gainwell. Yep. So it's been 2 good run defense weeks and 2 bad run defense weeks. So we'll see what happens this week. Your big flag plant of the week is David Montgomery. He's running back 23 in consensus rankings. He's running back 14 for you at the Cincinnati Bengals.
this a layup for me. Like I feel very confident with this one. He's the RB20 on the season, and they're projected for the most points on the week against the Bengals, who stink on defense. Like, what am I missing? I feel more confident that this offensive line is actually good, like very good again, even though they've like pretty much got into brand new interior. They all look pretty solid, and then the data is getting better and better. That the OC is not that big of a downgrade either. So David Montgomery, he gets the ball a ton. And they're number 31 in neutral pass rate, and they're expected to win by probably like 2 touchdowns or something like that. And he dominates in this entire game script. Like this is where David Montgomery was probably like the RB 16 in points last year, and they've got some teams on bye. Yeah.
This is one of those typical weeks where one team's running back 2 is better option than other teams running back 1s. And that's David Montgomery against Cincinnati Bengals. Kenneth Walker III is your running back 15. This is against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. Extra rest off of that Thursday performance where you saw 20 touches.
Yep. They're projected for a bunch of points here. 9th most at 24. The Bucs are really good at defense, rushing defense. This guy, Vita Vea, if you guys ever heard of him, is an absolute unit. So it'll be fun to see Gray Zabel, their first round left guard, who's been playing well against Vita Vea, the toughest matchup that he's had individually. So last week, it was more Kenneth Walker than Zach Charbonnet. It was not the same exact split as it was in the first couple games. He lost a couple snaps for just Kenneth Walker reasons, and then Charbonnet on those got the goal line carries. But it was a lot more Kenneth Walker than Charbonnet in this last one, 21-14 in terms of touches here. So I think that it's no longer this like even split. I think it's more of a 65-35 situation.
Travis Etienne is running back 16 against Kansas City Chiefs. That's Travis Etienne, who's a top 10 running back so far this season. Why the downgrade?
Well, I mean, that's one way to frame this. He's on pace for 1,800 total yards right now. Career best.
Why the downgrade?
6.0 yards per touch, career high 16.3 carries per game. This is an awesome season for Travis Etienne. Some of those stuff is a little bit, it's hard to rip off consistent 40-yard gains, but we'll see. The Chiefs defense has not been quite as good. But before, like usually it's like really hard to run on them. Looking at the rushing EPA, it hasn't been quite as good as usual. So, he's RB10 and RB19 usage. I'm putting this right up the middle. The team total is like so, but he's been really good on tape.
Big discussion point here. Bucky Irving, top 2-round pick in fantasy football for all of you, has been electric to open this season. Even on Sunday was fantastic, but shows up on crutches, walking boot, ankle injury here for Bucky. So Hayden, there are people on both sides. Some believe Rachaad White, who you have here as your running back 17, is going to be the lead ball carrier. He has been at times in the past for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Others believe it is Sean Tucker, who lacks the passing down juice, but is a between the tackles thumper and runner. Talk through why you believe this is Rachaad White and should be ranked ahead of Sean Tucker, where other people see it the opposite.
Well, Rachaad White's been like a bell cow in this offense for months at a time. And then even with Bucky Irving, like taking his job, which will happen, like Bucky Irving's a damn good football player. Rachaad White was like still very much the RB2. He's very trusted in every situation. Last year in week 14, so this is after Bucky had completely broken out, he leaves early with an injury. Both Sean Tucker and Rachaad White are available to go in there. Rachaad White goes in there, 17 carries, 90 yards, a rushing score, 2 receptions, 19 receiving yards, and a rushing score. So that was the last time in this offense without Bucky Irving, Rachaad White not only played, he dominated Sean Tucker and performed really well. And then you go back previously from 2023 to the first 5 games of this last season, where before Bucky Irving had his like first start and like really started threatening, Rachaad White over that span, which is a bunch of games, averaged 85 total yards on 19 opportunities. So he's just like the guy that they trust. So, and I think that the guy that's going to be needed is the guy that they trust, because the Seahawks have a really good defensive line and a really complicated defense that I think that there's going to throw Rachaad White out there. So if this is just like a couple weeks injury, I think that's just going to be Rachaad White. If this is the rest of the season, maybe Sean Tucker's like too explosive where they get in there. But for this week, it's like, to me, very clearly going to be Rachaad White with Sean Tucker in there for 5, 6, 7, 8 touches. And maybe he can rip off the big one. But I think that the most likely scenario is just like what's happened for the last couple seasons. And that's been Rachaad White as an RB2.
That's what I was going to ask. Does the severity, the longevity of this injury play a part in this? Because right now it's being termed a foot sprain for Bucky Irving. Sometimes foot sprains become Liz Frank injuries that do linger for basically the entire season. So we know that Rachaad White is awesome in pass protection. He owned 4th downs and 3rd downs last year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If it's only a, let's say, 3-week injury, it makes sense for him to fill in. As you just said, if it's a longer injury, or is there more potential runway possibility for Sean Tucker to make it a 50-50 split?
Sure. Yeah. Like the bigger the sample, then obviously, Sean Tucker will have some more opportunities. Maybe he can kind of eat into it. Also, Rachaad White is averaging almost 5 yards per carry. He's top 10 in yards after contact. PFF grade has him as a top 10 running back as well. And he's really good in pass protection. So like, Rachaad White has been playing pretty good football this year. He's also like had a rushing touchdown at the goal line, even with Bucky Irving on the field, like in a clutch situation. So yeah, like maybe we can revisit this in a month, but like, I think for now it's like Sean Tucker has to prove it first.
Chuba Hubbard is your running back 18 on paper, Hayden, against the Miami Dolphins defense, one that has allowed 163 total yards per game to running backs, which is 29th in the league. This looks great. Chuba Hubbard also not practicing on Wednesday. We know he carried an injury into week 4 as well.
Yeah, Rico Dowdle was in there a little bit early on in the game, so it wasn't like the same usage for Chuba as he's dealing with this injury. I'm assuming that he's like just like he was this last week. Like you said, it's just the offense has changed because they pass the ball a little bit more in neutral situations. They're not going to be as efficient running the ball, which at times they actually were pretty efficient running the ball without their center and Robert Hunt, their right guard. So yeah, over the last couple weeks, Chuba is at 8.5 half PPR points on 10.8 expected points. So like a below average player, just because I think the offensive line looks worse. So the only reason why I'm ranking ahead of where he's been the last couple weeks is just because the Dolphins are like equally bad on defense.
You are much lower than consensus on Derrick Henry. He's running back 9 in consensus rankings. He's your running back 19. I want to bring up, after a great week 1 that he ran through and over the Buffalo Bills, Derrick Henry in weeks 2 through 4 is the running back 44 in total points. And now it's no Lamar Jackson, and they are banged up on both sides of the ball. So talk us through Derrick Henry here as running back 19 for you.
Well, the Ravens are projected for 19 points. This is the third fewest of the week. And he loses, like the second they're out of game script, he's not on the field. So he has to like get this thing done. Either the game's close or he goes crazy in the first half, which is like obviously very possible here. But his efficiency is down, and it's not the explosiveness. I think that Derrick Henry is the same football player. I think the offensive line without Patrick Ricard, their fullback, without a quality tight end 2 this year, Ronnie Stanley is now not going to be playing, most likely, their left tackle. All of that matters. And the defense is also not nearly as good as it was during the Mike McDonald era as well. So everything's kind of working against Derrick Henry right now. So yeah, he's been the RB 16 on RB 29 usage this year with Lamar Jackson, who's by far their most important player.
Jordan Mason is your running back 20. This is at the Cleveland Browns without Ryan Kelly and Brian O'Neill on the field this past Sunday. And by the way, they won't be playing in this game against the Cleveland Browns defense. Jordan Mason ran 7 times for a combined 29 yards. This offensive line versus that defensive line is one of those matchups that I talked about previously, where it can shape the entire outcome of a contest.
Yeah, we both shared our Boosttober pick'em entries, and we both had lowers on Jordan Mason. It's not, we both love Jordan Mason, love Kevin O'Connell,
Yes.
love everything about it, but their first round guard has a wrist injury. Ryan Kelly with another concussion, like back to back. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on injured reserve. Brian O'Neill, the right tackle, he said knee injury. He's going to be out weeks at a time. And like you get Myles Garrett this week. So by the way, the Browns have allowed Derrick Henry to put up 2.3 half PPR points, Josh Jacob under 10, Jahmyr Gibbs 16.7, but even that is not that great. And then David Montgomery 1.2. So I mean, it's it's tough sledding right now. And Xavier Scott is like a real football player. My guy from the preseason, and Jordan Mason is not a bell cow. He's an early down grinder type who's good at football, but now the environment around him is no good.
Alvin Kamara, running back 21 against the New York Giants. He's had 1 week over 80% of the backfield touches. The other one, 65%, 68%, and then 63% this past week. And in fact, Kendre Miller has also out-touched Alvin Kamara inside the red zone 4-3 so far this season.
Yeah, and since then, center Cesar Ruiz is on injured reserve. The efficiency is just down year over year for Alvin Kamara, and they're trying to get Kendre Miller going a little bit, and all this aligns with Alvin Kamara potentially being on the trade block. So I think like right now he's like squeezed, and then if you have drafted Alvin Kamara, you're hoping that he gets traded to a better situation. The Giants have been bad against fantasy running backs.
Yep.
I just don't think that's like an actual stat I want to buy in moving forward. Like Dexter Lawrence against this offensive line, I mean, give me a break. Like, it's not a good matchup. I don't care what the spreadsheets say.
Yeah, the spreadsheets do say that the Giants have allowed 19.1 just rushing points per game to running backs, which is 31st in the NFL.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why the Saints are favored here. They believe that this duo can do it with this offensive line. Okay, J.K. Dobbins is your running back 22. This is at the Philadelphia Eagles. I do want to point out, at halftime of Monday Night Football, RJ Harvey had 7 touches to 5 for J.K. Dobbins. And obviously when they pulled away in the second half, J.K. Dobbins had entire drives and was fantastic. I can't tell you if that's going to be sticky moving forward because this is Sean Payton and he likes to manufacture touches to certain people. But what I can tell you that has been sticky is that J.K. Dobbins has been awesome this season. Yeah. But now he goes up against, with his offensive line, which is very good, a Philadelphia Eagles defense.
Yeah, all the same notes that I had. They're doing it like series by series, like not full drives, but like you get like 3 or 4 plays in a row, and then the next running back gets 3 or 4 plays in a row. So I think it's going to be more Dobbins than RJ Harvey, but the gap is tightening. I think it's good news for RJ Harvey that they want to see him like on third downs, in short yardage, and then on 1st and 10s instead of like segmenting the rolls out by role. So Dobbins been the RB15 and RB26 usage, one of the most efficient running backs in the game. But like you said, Broncos, who were, I think, 5th most points projected last week, which is why I had Dobbins ranked highly. Now the Broncos are 5th fewest points on the week in Philadelphia. So Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, those 2 linebackers that they have, it's just a bad matchup.
Just an update as we're going through. We always get news items during the show. From Panthers head coach Dave Canales, he says Chuba Hubbard came out of the game with a calf injury that was worse than at this point last week. So he is day-to-day. So
he's not going to play. Like pick up Rico Dowdle if you're listening to this, you know.
There you go. Okay. Woody Marks, you're running back 23. I cannot wait to see what Woody Marks does. This is at the Baltimore Ravens. We know that he out-touched Nick Chubb 5-3 in the first quarter, 9-6 at halftime. He's already expanded his game in game 1 from 13% of touches up to 58%. Maybe that's up to 65% in this game in week 5.
Yeah, I don't think he can return back from what Woody Marks is doing. He just looks so much better than Nick Chubb. And the matchup wise, like it might feel like it's a terrible matchup, but the Ravens they have no starters left. I mean, defense tackle, edge rusher, linebacker, slot corner, depth at defensive tackle. They've allowed the most fantasy points to running back this season at 30.8 per game, which is, it's not going to be that high for the entire season, but that's a ton of fantasy points giving up just to one position. So in the post-game press conferences, they're talking up Woody Marks, and that they used to talk up Nick Chubb. Now they're not talking up Nick Chubb, and I totally get that. So we'll see. I think that Woody Marks is going to be the guy moving forward, and we'll see if even Nick Chubb remains the RB2. I'm not even sure if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, over the past 3 weeks, Ravens given up 144 yards and a score to the Browns backfield, 263 and 4 touchdowns to the Lions backfield, and 131 yards and a touchdown to the Kansas City Chiefs backfield.
Which is hard to do. The Chiefs never do that.
Another huge discussion this week is the Arizona Cardinals. With James Conner out for the season, it pops up that Trey Benson on the second to last offensive series banged up his knee. From what I read, he has since had an arthroscopic procedure. He is now placed on injured reserve. And so that means he's going to miss at least the next 4 games, and we might not see him until week 10. So what does this team do to the backup to the backup? We even have difficulty, Hayden, with running back handcuffs immediately behind workhorses like James Conner. And we have less certainty of what teams do further down the depth chart. So this is either a Michael Carter or Emari Demercado conversation. Which side are you leaning here?
I'm on team Michael Carter, but it's close, and it only matters because we're in bye weeks and there's injuries. So I don't have an aggressive ranking on either one of these guys, but we also need to start them in the flex. So when the first Trey Benson news that I saw was from AZ Central, and in that report for Trey Benson, they mentioned that Michael Carter could be the early down back. And then following that up in practice on Thursday, it was Michael Carter ahead of Emari Demercado in practice, just looking at the drills. So that's like two nuggets from the beats who are indicating that it's Michael Carter. And to me, that makes sense. I know that Emari Demercado has been healthy and he's been active for the entire season, and Michael Carter has not. But this to me is a little bit similar to the Washington discussion, where Jeremy McNichols is kind of in the Jeremy McNichols role, but Chris Rodriguez goes from inactive because he doesn't play special teams to all of a sudden being the early down starter. There's no Bill Krosky-Meyer in the situation, so it's actually better for both of these guys. But I do think that Michael Carter is the better rusher, and then Emari Demercado is the better receiving guy. And that's kind of been the split, what we saw with Trey Benson without James Conner. It's what we saw with James Conner with Trey Benson. So I think it's going to be probably a closer committee, like a 50-50 split. But I do think that Michael Carter will be the early down starter and more likely to score a touchdown.
I've been amazed that people are so certain it's going to be one or the other. This is one of those, and I know this isn't a great opinion to have, that I have zero certainty on which side it's going to be. And it truly might be a 50-50 split versus what we've seen in the past of, hey, one guy gets the first, second down stuff, and the other guy gets 2-minute drill, 4-minute drill, and passing down stuff. Both of them have mostly profiled as passing down players so far in the league. You know, some are going to say, well, Emari Demercado is bigger. That means he's going to be the early down player. Some have said, well, Michael Carter, like Drew Petzing has talked about in his post game press conferences or post practice press conferences, that Michael Carter in his past has carried the rock a number of times. I just have no certainty of which one it is going to be. I think both, again, during this bye week period, should be selected. Just understand that none of us have the insight of what it could happen. If I have to lean one way, it's probably Carter slightly ahead of Demercado, but I don't have a strong stance on it either side.
A couple more data points. In week 18, Michael Carter in this offense had 21 touches. That was without Benson, Conner, and Demercado was also out, but they did lean on Michael Carter in like a bell cow role. And then I was just looking at like career games. Michael Carter has 15 games of double-digit carries, where Emari Demercado only has 3 of them. So Michael Carter, even though he's small, he's more of like just a small early down runner. It's kind of like and that's why he doesn't play all that much. But in the past, they have used him as like a mini, like early down grinder type. So that's where I'm at.
And on top of this, Arizona backs just have a 33% success rate, which is 28th in the NFL. They haven't been running the ball nearly as well as they have in previous seasons. But Tennessee has been really bad to running backs. They've allowed 5 yards per carry, which is 27th across the NFL.
Yeah. And the Cardinals are 7th in projected points, almost at 25 at home. So like, to me, we need to get this one right for this week. I don't have a bunch of confidence that like one of these guys is going to run away with this, but like there's going to be a running back touchdown in this game, most likely, just looking at the projected points. So we'll see.
On the opposite end, it is Tony Pollard at the Arizona Cardinals. It shows you how much situation can impact everything, because Tony Pollard has owned 94% of the backfield touches for the Tennessee Titans, and yet he is running back 29 on the season at this point.
I don't know if Tyjae Spears is going to play, but he's eligible to play. So we will learn.
His ankle is heavily wrapped up in practice right now.
Still? Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I have Michael Carter down a couple spots since I updated this. So I do have Tony Pollard a little bit ahead, but this is the Tennessee Titans projected for the second fewest points. We know what the results are. He's a flex.
So does that mean you have Chase Brown ahead here too? So Chase Brown, let's say you're running back 25 then against the Detroit Lions. Talk about situations that are hellish.
I mean, Pollard and Chase Brown, it's the same exact. Like, what is different?
Yeah. Okay. We don't need to talk about it. Blake Corum. Again, this is the second running back on his team. We talked about Kyren Williams earlier. Blake Corum in a game against the 49ers Thursday night, split the workload, high point total. There it is.
Yeah, I think that he's got a chance to be flex worthy. 8.5 expected points, season high last week for Blake Corum. He gets like series at a time. So there's a chance that he's just the goal line guy on that series, and there's a touchdown for you. He can also catch the ball. I think that he's very trusted, and I think there's not that much of a difference in terms of talent between Kyren and Blake Corum. They actually look extremely similar, which was the point all along. So like you're seeing the vision, and what McVay promised us is exactly what's happening. 17-13 split in terms of touches last week is very narrow.
Final point on that. Kyren's numbers were a lot better in this past game, and yet they still gave him fewer than 60% of the opportunities because they still wanted to get Blake Corum involved. It wasn't, oh, let's only run the hot hand here. Yeah. Like they still wanted to incorporate Blake Corum, even if his yards per carry and yards per touch were lower than Kyren's.
They're probably saying, look, we're giving Kyren Williams a break.
Exactly.
His numbers are better. It's not like that they're going to like change this up. They're like, no, this is actually working because his efficiency's up.
Okay, Zach Charbonnet, anything you want to add here for him against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
So I have Michael Carter behind both those last guys right there.
Wow.
With Charbonnet, it's just they're projected for a ton of points. The usage is down versus where it was, but he also could mix in at the goal line, and which we saw last week. And then he's also the 2-minute drill guy. So he still has like a role. It's just not a great matchup, certainly. And I don't think that what happened early on the season is going to stay true. But during bye weeks and the injuries and stuff, man, like I still like all these. I know like I sound pretty negative with a lot of these guys. I still like them better than the crap wide receiver that you're thinking about putting into your flex.
Well, talk about the Patriots running backs, because next you have Trevion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson.
You want to help me out with this one? Like to me in my notes, I have like they're experimenting with all three backs. There's like no rhyme or reason to the rotation. All of them are getting goal line touches. They're trying to see who's gonna make a name for themselves. Trevion is like, he looks fast, but like there's been no consistency. The advanced numbers aren't all that great. They just use everybody, you know?
Yeah, and they're projected for the 10th lowest points at just 21 this week, which is quite different than last week against the Panthers, which is not as fun when you have to split that 40, 40, 20 across these three running backs.
Yeah, we got to get Antonio Gibson removed before we can like get serious with these guys.
Next are the Chiefs running backs in Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. 1 week, Hunt gets the short yardage touchdown. The next week, Isaiah Pacheco gets it.
Yeah, there's once again like no real rhyme or reason. Brashard Smith is popping up. Like all three of these backs got touches in both halves, which is like just hell for fantasy football. The one thing though is the Chiefs are projected for the 8th most points on the week, almost at 25. And the big note for defensive purposes, Trayvon Walker with a wrist injury is unlikely to play. And he's a monster everywhere, but he's like specifically one of the best run blocking edge rushers. So that's a big deal for a Jaguars defense that's been very good this year. And last week, Isaiah Pacheco at least had a season high 9.7 expected fantasy points. Like that's not a ton, but versus your wide receivers, like he's still probably more likely to score a touchdown than like the wide receiver 40.
I don't know if I can go that direction. We'll have start sits on Sunday. I might be deciding some of those wide receivers ahead of Isaiah Pacheco, but that's just me. Okay, let's close this thing out with 2 rookies. The first one is RJ Harvey. We talked about him at length in Stats versus Film. I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to add here.
Just the matchup is like 5th fewest points in Philadelphia. It's just a bad matchup. His role is increasing. He also got some touches in a blowout win, which is you can't like extrapolate too much, but he looks better. They're trusting him a little bit more. And there's some positive signs.
I will add, I mean, so far the Eagles have allowed 4.5 yards per carry to running backs, which is 21st, with a 58% success rate, which is 22nd. So it's not like they haven't been run on this year. They're kind of league average when it comes to running backs. So we'll see. Okay, we're closing this thing out with the only Commanders running back on this list. This is Bill Krosky-Merritt at the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, on my list on the website, Chris Rodriguez is at 36. So it's like, you know, once again, this is a 3-back committee where Jeremy McNichols has a role. Chris Rodriguez is starting. You can say that Bill is the best running back, but he plays in the 4th quarter. And then Deebo Samuel and Jaden Daniels are also going to get involved. So like, to me, what has changed? They're bottom 3 in expected points for the running backs combined, and they chop it up 3 ways. So he can rip off a big play. No question about that. This could flip when they completely remove Chris Rodriguez, but until that happens, This is pretty bottom of the barrel.
All right, that's going to do it. That game does have the third highest total of the weekend, though, which is exciting at 48 points. And yeah, maybe the pendulum will swing too far where Bill is underrated, and I would go and trade for him. That does it for us. Thank you all for tuning in. Speaking of trades, tomorrow we have the trade show with Faraz. That'll be on the channel around 3 or 4 Eastern. Actually, probably a bit later, maybe 5 Eastern this week, because we're recording an hour later. Then Friday and Saturday, wide receivers, and then quarterback and tight end rankings. And then we are back on Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern for our Start Sit show. Once again, if you want to support us, go and support Underdog. It is Boostober. It's unlimited, endless amount of 30% boost here for the next few days. So get your stuff in right now. Plus ladders, if you feel like you have a flag plant going, go and try out ladders on top of it. Shout out to Moshe Weaves and Hayden up the Villa. We'll talk to you all soon. See ya.